In the last couple of days I've been given even more Seagull outboard parts. I'll soon have enough to start a store or an eBay site. Surprising how it's gone. I wouldn't want my channel to be known for outboards and so forth, but recent events has been that way, I suppose. You may recall not too long back I had a succession of strimmers videos. That thankfully they've sort of dried up. Anyway, I wouldn't say no to all this lot, and I've got the makings of a couple here. I suppose why this is because recently I've been out on the boat with a small outboard, been seen by people to use small outboards, especially these older things, and people have these things in the shed and they've they've put them my way, so thank you very much. But there's only so much of all this junk you can keep, of course. So, this little 40 plus clutch model Seagull I regularly use. There's not many of this size with a clutch drive, but very reliable, of course. And of course these were made in great numbers in this country. Anyway, recently I was looking on eBay, and quite locally a guy was advertising an outboard motor. And this is the motor that was advertised. It's a Chrysler 3.6 single cylinder air cooled 2-stroke outboard, and it's American, of course. Perhaps these things are reasonably familiar in the USA, but here in the UK they're very rare. In fact, this is the first one I've ever seen. So I thought, well, that's interesting. The guy had moved into a house, and this was in the garage. He knew nothing about it. There was just one photograph of it, and there was one bid of 50 quid, and it was only 15 miles up the road. So I thought, well, it's worth a gamble, so I went in at 51, and I won it. He didn't know anything about it. It was sold as spares or repair. It didn't turn like this, I might add. It was absolutely solid, but it's only a question of slackening off the pinch plate, putting a piece of leather in there and greasing it. And one of the turn screws, they all turn now, but one was really solid. I had to apply some heat, and even with Plusser gas I had to put a pair of steel-shins on and sport a bit of the thread this end, but it tightens up before it gets to the bad bit, but at least it works now. I said it's air cooled, but it's got actually a pump just here, and the leg is cooled, and I've actually had it up and running now in a tank, but it doesn't pump as much water out of the little outlets here, very little, so I'd like to sort of sort that out. It's very well made. As I say, I'm probably preaching to the converted. You know these quite well, but as I say, it's the only one I've ever seen. And it's very well made, and I like the way all the castings, it's quite good condition. But whatever idiot designed it, he didn't think about maintenance. It's a pig. It's an absolute pig to work on. This top, to take it off, this is fiberglass. You've got to undo the cap and take the cap off, so if you lay it on the side, fuel goes everywhere. You can't get this away from the top because it's captured by the start cord. And the whole thing is like that. It's put together, very, very nice, but blow the guy that's got to try and do anything with it. Anyway, the little story behind this, and as you can imagine, I'm really chuffed and I'll eventually show this going. There's an interesting tale or two with this you may be interested in. For many years I worked as a radio engineer, and diagnosing faults, after a while you sort of get a nose for them, so to speak, and I like to think I did quite well. But some of the problems you can have is when people introduce faults, and of course you don't know what they've done. They add problems and that you never know you had. Now the problem here is with the little Chrysler outboard, for instance. It didn't go initially, and in taking the top off, the pipes were rather perished. And one part of the bend, the lowest part of the system, seemed very hard to me. And I went to blow through it, and there's no way I could blow through it. Absolutely completely blocked. And I got a rod. This was much longer, by the way. And I pushed and pushed, and out the end come like a sort of a slug or a worm of caked up rust and mess. It completely blocked the fuel going into the engine. I cleaned the tank out. It wasn't bad. And I thought, well, if there's that in the lowest part of the system there, and I replaced this pipe, of course. What's it like in the actual carburettor? Well, that was the so-and-so to get out, but finding some very thin spanners, we managed it. But it wasn't too bad in there, as it turned out, but anyway, we gave it all a clean. And we pulled the engine over, and there was no spark. Oh, so we got other problems, have we? And I saw this spark plug in it, and it's relatively new, look. Okay? Yes, it's a little bit dirty, but there's a gap there, look, you can see it. Well, take nothing for granted, nothing for granted. Because it's newish, doesn't mean it's any good. So I put another spark plug in, and hey presto, we had a spark. This one we didn't, so this one's faulty. So it put this one in. It added a fault to the what was already a problem. Here I've got my trusty Avo. So I put it on ohms. As you can see, look, there's resistance there. I suspect there's carbon build up on the inside on the insulator. But anyway, enough to absolutely clag the spark. So you have to look to see what other people have done. Take nothing for granted. I mentioned to the guy that supplies me with fishing bait that I'd picked up a Chrysler outboard. He didn't know they made them. I said, oh, it's a classic. I said, it's 3.6. Oh, he said, only small then. I said, well, it's good enough for my boat. I said, it was made in about the mid-70s. So it's sort of a classic. Oh, I should chuck that in the bin, he says. You want to get something more reliable. And I thought, what a Philistine, you know. They just don't get it, do they? Oh, well, if they don't get it, they just don't get it. Moving off slightly from outboards, I've shown you this in the past. This little, it's a Samsung digital camera. Yes, I know it's all scratched and messed around. But I only paid £3 for it. I had a boot sale. And I had limited amount of photographs it would use. It was on high resolution. And it's one of these combo things. It's an MP3 player, it's a voice recorder, it's all these things. Bit gimmicky, and like all these combos, it falls down on every department, doesn't it? But what you can't tell from the video is it's a nice, solid, heavy little thing. And it's a sort of a slidey action, like a phone, which covers up the lens. And I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. It's something that can go in your pocket. You've got nothing to push, you know. The features are, well, it's quite comprehensive without getting too technical. I've got a Coolpix camera, and the manual's that thick, you know, where this is so simple. And it doesn't matter that it's all scratched about. You can put it in the glove compartment, take it on the boat, whatever. And several pictures I've taken on videos that have been using this. But I would like to have used the video recorder section on it, but you can't do that without putting in an SD card in there. And it didn't come with an SD card, but what can you expect for £3? But, so I tried an SD card, and it didn't work. And I assumed it was faulty. We're back to never assume things again, right? I assumed it was faulty, and there are some comments where I've spoken about this before. And when you put a card in, I haven't got one handy, but when you put a card in, there's a little tiny switch to the side which changes over its internal memory to the card. And someone said these switches get a bit iffy. Well, I tried everything I could. I thought it would be nice to use the video because I think it's MPEG-4, which is good enough for just simple YouTube stuff. Anyway, it just wouldn't work with a card, and so I thought, well, I've got nothing to lose. It was very cheap, so I did a tiny little spray of switch cleaner, and with a small toothpick, slowly worked the switch backwards and forwards to see if I could, clean up the contacts. But no joy. You put the card in, just dies. So you assume that it has a software problem. You assume there's something wrong with the camera. After all, why was it so cheap in the first place? Well, I looked through the blurb. As I say, these are quite nice. I didn't want to get rid of it. And I'm not sure where I saw it now, but it was just some comment someone had made on some site regarding these little cameras. And it said that they only use either Toshiba, Panasonic, ScanDisk up to 2 gigabytes. Anything over, and the camera won't switch on. There is nowhere on the specifications, nowhere does Samsung tell you a damn thing about that, but anything over 2 gigabytes and it won't work. So I got myself a standard SD card, put it in there, it all works fine. So how many of these do you think has been thrown out because people think they're broken, because they can't use them? It's got to be faulty, hasn't it? Because when you put in a card, it doesn't work. So we're back to this never make assumptions thing again. Anyway, today, with that, have I got the picture here? Let's have a look. Yes, I have. Yeah, okay. I've taken a picture of my current boat, and I'll show you the quality that this will produce. And it's a very simple little boat, 16 foot open, very nice lines, will take very little to push it along, and it'll be interesting to see how the Chrysler pushes it. Anyway, it's been I haven't had it long. It's been a very, very lucky boat to me. I went out yesterday bass fishing. I caught 9 fish. 3 of them were over the £3 mark, and 1 was about £4.5. So we're okay for bass dinners for a week or two.